Hello, my name is Marina Ray. Welcome to my channel. I am a licensed architect and I am recording videos where I share my experience on how to pass architect registration examination. In this video, we will be discussing our exam number 4, which is Project Planning and Design, or PPD. This is one of the largest divisions, and let us take a look at the things that I put together for you. So let me share my screen and we'll go through the details and intricacies of the exam. So the division has 100 items, including 2 case studies, and PPD and PDD, which is project development and documentation, are the only 2 divisions where you have 100 questions. We saw that in PCM, PJM, PA, and CE, there are less questions, and of course, it's going to take less time. But this is a very long division, so you need to be prepared for this marathon. So the test duration is 4 hours and 5 minutes, and you can take a break up to 45 minutes. So roughly the total appointment time is 5 hours. And please take that break. Your body will need that. You cannot just sit straight for 4 hours. You will need to move around a little bit. You will need to use a restroom. You'll need to have a snack or have something to drink. So please utilize that, but always remember that the questions that you already answered will be logged when you come back. So please plan your time accordingly. Okay, so what this division is about. This is the preliminary design of sites and buildings. So basically, that's your design development. That's the phase that this division is about. And we will focus on issues related to the generation or evaluation of design alternatives that synthesize environmental, cultural, behavior, technical, and economic issues. And also, you will need to analyze and evaluate design concepts, sustainability principles, environmental design, universal design, and other forms of governing codes and regulations. And there are 5 sections in this division, and we'll talk more about each of them in a moment. So section 1 is environmental conditions and context. Section 2, codes and regulations. Section 3, building systems, materials, and assemblies. Section 4, project integration of programs and systems. And Section 5, project costs and budgeting. And you can see that the first 2 sections overlap with the PA. So there are codes and regulations there. We review that in the programming phase, and then environmental conditions and context are important. And then also these are large sections that are just very specific for this division. Before we dive deeper into each of the sections, I would like to take a look at the guidelines and at the references that NCARB recommends. So again, here is the link, and I will place this link under the video in the description so you can click on that, and always check that before you begin studying, because NCARB changes things sometimes and you don't want to miss that. So the primary reference is the Architectural Graphic Standards, or AGS, and I highly recommend to read this book cover to cover, just because there's so much information that you will definitely need, not just for the exam, but for your architectural practice. For you to become a better architect, you need to know how to graphically represent buildings, how to graphically represent sections, systems, and everything in between. So and it overlaps with PA and PDD, so definitely get a copy of this book. The second one is Building Construction Illustrated. This is also a very good book. It is a supplemental reference, but I really recommend just to have that book and always refer back to that if you have any question, especially when you are drafting, when you are designing things, and when you need to do the details. So this is a perfect kind of like reference point, and you can actually use that after you get licensed. And if you open your own practice, definitely use that. Or if you work for a larger firm and you will become an architect, this will definitely help you to redline the drawings. So another book is Heating, Cooling, Lighting, Sustainable Design Strategies Towards Net Zero Architecture. So this book, I did not really like this book. For some reason, it was kind of like, just do that, do not do this. And it was kind of like more prescriptive. And some people really like it, and some people really, really recommend it. I mean, this is just my opinion. You don't have to rely on that. You need to just, maybe take a look at the book. Do not buy it right away. Just, review it. And then if you find it really good for your studies, definitely get a copy. But, for me, it was just, you know, I don't know. I didn't find that much value in that. But again, this is a recommended book, so please make sure that you at least have a copy of that. You don't, even if you don't read the whole thing, read some of the recommended chapters. The next book is Mechanical and Electrical Equipment for Buildings, or MEEB. This book is very good. I recommend that. It is a little dry. It is a little difficult to read that, but there are fundamentals that you really have to know, especially HVAC equipment, especially some of the concepts that you don't know how to apply, and you don't know, for example, what HVAC system to specify for the building program. So have a copy of that. It's a thick book. It's a lot of information. And if this is your specialty, definitely just keep that copy even after the exams. The next recommended textbook is Site Planning and Design Handbook. This is a good general knowledge about like climate, sustainability, and in general, like site planning. So I actually have a playlist of the videos where I review the chapters of this book. It's like a high level overview. It's not like detailed, and you definitely have to have a copy of that because you will need to see the graphics and all the charts there from that book. So I'll leave a link to that playlist under this video as well. So let's move to the next question. Sorry, next next slide, and this is the first section of our exam. So that is environmental conditions and context. And if you remember from PA, that was kind of similar, but we do little different things here. And this section is between 10 and 16% of exam items. And since we have 100 questions, it's kind of like easy to translate that into the number of questions. So it's between 10 and 16 questions per this section. And here you'll use the site information gathered in the programming and analysis phase of a project to plan the site and environmental aspects of a project. And there are 3 objectives in this section. So the first one is you need to determine the location of the building and site improvements based on site analysis. So what this means is that you will have to know where to place the building based on the restrictions of the site. So for example, setbacks, or if you would like to keep some of the mature vegetation, or if you would like to just accommodate the for example, the shade like that the trees provide. So building orientation is critically important. And there are other restrictions such as wetlands or some unbuildable areas, if there are any easements, or if there is anything on the site that came with your title, I mean, with the owner's title, that they cannot build on that portion of the site. So you need to really place the building smartly. So and also site improvements, what you need to do to accommodate that building. So for example, if there is noise from the highway, if you need to plant a row of the trees, or if you need to build a wall, or whatever is required. So you need to analyze the location and the site improvements. The next objective is determine sustainable principles to apply to design. And again, climate is everything here. Make sure that you review some of the lead principles as well, because this will be very helpful for your exam. You need to understand how that works, how the location and transportation works for your site, and always think as a sustainability ambassador here in this exam. Just wear that hat for the exam. I mean, in general, architects should do that, but specifically for these exams, make sure that you analyze the water resources, that you have the energy efficient building, that your site is sustainable, that you preserve the habitat, that you design it well. So, for example, if we're talking about like building systems or like assemblies, like you may want to apply the green roof, or something like that, or just have the photovoltaic panels or shingles or something. So it's like just try to imagine like the ideal world. I know that we face a lot of different constraints in practice, and sometimes owners are not willing or are not able to pursue the sustainable project or green building certification. But here, imagine that you are doing that, and this will definitely help you with this division. And also determine the impact of neighborhood context on the project design. So this is the third objective of this section. And what this means, you need to understand what surrounds your site, because you're not building on like an uninhabited island. There is already the context that is around. And if it's the urban environment, make sure that when you design the building, you do not disturb the properties around. And if there are any zoning requirements, if you have to have like a vegetation buffer between your program and existing buildings, or if you need to have like just figure out what type of foundation you need to build, so that the buildings that are adjacent to your site do not collapse, or like, so there are a few different things that you always need to do before even you present the design. So there's a lot of homework, there's a lot of thinking involved. So just imagine that you are designing the real project, and this is what you're doing here. Just don't study just for this exam, but kind of like apply it to what you will be doing as a licensed architect. So section number 2 is codes and regulations, and we will see this throughout a lot of actually divisions. That is important. We need to always cross-reference this before we design and before we make any mistakes, right? So it is between 16 and 22%, or between 16 and 22 questions. And in this section, you look at the codes and regulations relevant to the planning phase of a project. And again, if there is any meeting that you can schedule with the building department, just to discuss the plan. Some jurisdictions don't allow that. Some jurisdictions are very nice and friendly. They want you to communicate. They will help you a lot. They will maybe even send some like preliminary inspection there so that the official can advise you on, what will and what will not work on this particular site. So here you need to apply zoning and environmental regulations to site and building design. And definitely check with the jurisdiction all the time because they update the codes, they update the local municipality regulations, and you need to always follow the most stringent requirement and regulation. Even though if the IBC, for example, allows let's say 5 foot setback, you need to follow the local one, which says like 15 feet, or that was just like an example. So also you need to know how to apply building codes to building design. And what this means is for example, the height and area regulation. So if your client wants to have like a 20-story building, but the jurisdiction only allows 5, you definitely need to get back to your owner and say that, we cannot really design a skyscraper here just because there are height regulations here. It is by the airport or something like that. So you always need to communicate that to your owner when you get this information from the authority having jurisdiction. Also, the third objective is to integrate multiple codes to a project design. So if there are contradicting requirements, always follow the most stringent. That's the kind of like rule of thumb. And always cross-reference between ADA, between environmental conditions, between the local zoning code, local planning division. If there are any master development plans for this area. So you always need to make sure that you check that because, for example, if your client wants to build a nursing home and the city is planning to have a railway station right next to it, like in the next like 5 or 10 years, so the quietness will be definitely disturbed. So like things like that you need to just evaluate, and this is what this section is about. So the third section of the exam is the building systems, materials, and assemblies. And that's between 19 and 25%, or 19 and 25 questions of the exam. And here you'll focus on other disciplines with which an architect must be familiar, along with the various components that make up the building. So here we will determine mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems. And if there are any formulas that you are really worried about, please do not worry, because there are formulas that you are allowed to use during the exam. And here I pasted a link. That's the ARE 5.0 handbook from the NCARB website, and you will see that you will have that tab in your exam. So you can click on that, and there are formulas that you can use. There are structural formulas, there are beams, there are mechanical formulas, acoustical, lighting. So there is a whole bunch of different formulas that you will need to utilize for this exam. And you may or may not have a lot of questions pertaining to this, but just so that you are not worried, you will have access to those formulas. Same with the structural system. That's the second objective. You need to determine the structural systems. So if you're still not sure about the for example, moment diagram, you will have access to the beams, and you will see like the the point load or whatever, like the different types of beams. So don't worry, but I mean, you definitely need to study that, but you will be able to have that reference. Also, the third objective is you will determine special systems such as acoustics, communications, lighting, security, conveying, and fire suppression. And of course, that depends on the program, right? So smaller projects, you don't have to have a lot of things, but complex projects where you have to consider not just the design of the space, but all the systems integrated. This is what this division is about. You need to plan wisely so that no systems intersect and do not disturb each other. So, for example, um, your HVAC duct does not penetrate the structural beam, right? So you need to really plan, you need to understand the thickness of the systems and where we place them. How thick is the slab between the floors, and like what actually is the general requirement, what ceiling height the owner would like to have, the finished ceiling height. And if you need to hide all those systems, you need to understand where to do that, how to do that, and that you have access after that to maintain those systems. So this is kind of like what this is about, right? And the final objective is to determine materials and assemblies to meet programmatic, budgetary, and regulatory requirements. So you need to start thinking about your wall sandwich, about what insulation you're going to use, about what structural systems you are going to use, and how that's going to be supported, and what type of fenestration you'll be using, and what types of like interior materials you will be using. And always think sustainability. Always try to make sure that that is not just compliant, but it is environmentally safe. That and always remember that there are a lot of VOC, or volatile organic compounds, in the interior finishes, especially in the paints and carpet. So when you specify that, always try to think, I don't know, like 50 years ahead, and try to think about the human health when you design things. So yes, that was our section 3. Let's move to the next one. That is section number 4, and that is the largest section in the PPD. So it's between 32 and 38%, or between 32 and 38 questions. So that's like more than a third of the exam, just the project integration of programs and systems. And again, this is your design. This is what you apparently do at the architectural firm. When you start designing, you start to think about the integration of those systems, how they all work together, what is the program requirement, what you need to achieve. So the first, there are 4 objectives here, and the first one is to determine building configuration. That's like the first and foremost. You need to see like how to accommodate the site restrictions, and if that's gonna work for the interior, if it's gonna work for the program, if the circulation is good, if you have egress from all the floors. So this is what you need to kind of like think about. So there's not just like one door, one entrance leading to the building. You always have to think about the worst case scenario. So the worst case structural load, the worst case like fire situation, right? So if it's maximum occupancy and the fire, just the building goes on flames, and how people will get out. Like you always need to think about that when you plan your building. So the second objective is to integrate building systems in the project design. And now with the BIM, with Revit, it's easier to do. It's easier to like think 3D, right? So you can rotate the model, we can see how that works, and we can see how other engineers integrated their models already, because usually, and I don't know how it's done in your particular firm, but usually the architect shares the model with like other divisions, with mechanical engineer or electrical and structural, and they integrate their model into the architectural one. And then there are like coordination meetings, and you'll discuss, okay, so this is going to work, this is not going to work, and you flag that, and you discuss that with the engineers, and they check that. And after that, this model will continue living when the construction starts. So for example, for the complex projects, if that's like, let's say an airport, right? There is always the VDC manager at the construction management site, and they will make sure that everything is taken care of, because they add the subcontractor systems there as well, and they add all the like whatever was not taken care of in the design phase. They need to make sure that it's going to work, and they coordinate that with the architect. I mean, that's kind of like, in the ideal world, right? Not every construction management has that, but now actually it's more common. So the third objective is you need to know how to integrate program requirements into a project design. So again, go back to the program, check if you have fulfilled all the owner's requirements. If you just forgot about something, this is the time when you fix it, because later in the CDs and the construction documents, which is the PDD phase, they'll be too late. So here you can still incorporate some of the changes, if any, but communication again is very important, and always communicate with the client, because they don't know what's happening in your architectural office. They just need the communication from the architect. The fourth objective is to integrate environmental and contextual conditions in the project design. So this is kind of like the last chance to decide if you would like to, for example, do LEED, right? If you want to do the LEED um, certification for the building, because later it will be very difficult to do. And here you check the specs, you incorporate that, and you make sure that everything is included. So for example, if you want to include the LEED requirements, you go to Division 1, I think it's like 018113. This is where you add your LEED requirements, and that will be critically important for the construction manager after that. So, and always remember that it's not just the design, right? It's not just the drawings. Your project will include the specifications. So this is where you actually do that. So project integration of programs and systems, you will include the description of all the programs and systems in the specs. The the section number 5 is about project costs and budgeting. So this is a smaller section, between 8 and 14%, or 8 and 14 questions, but don't value this. It's a very important thing, and budget is a decision-making concept that you will have to deal with in any project. So, and here you'll consider the bottom line. How much does this project cost? And there are 3 objectives. So the first one is you'll evaluate design alternatives based on the program. So for example, if you did the estimate and you came up with a number and you communicated that number to the owner and he's like, oh my gosh, like this is like 20% more than my budget. We cannot do that. I don't have money for that. So what you need to do, and remember that architect does the redesigning for free, so we don't charge for that. We get back and we'll reevaluate the systems. For example, you can save some money on something that will not affect your scope of project. So if you and a couple examples here. So if you specified some fancy finishing products like marble or I don't know, some expensive tile or some, expensive wood flooring, you can actually propose something less expensive, and that is not going to affect anything. But if you specify the high impact windows and the owner wants, cheaper windows, but the project is in the hurricane prone zone, like for example in Florida, and the owner wants to save money on that, do not do that, because that is going to impact the integrity of the envelope, and that is just simply dangerous and not allowed by the local code. So also you'll perform cost evaluation here in this section. And again, you'll get back to your cost evaluation after every phase, and you'll see, okay, so this is what we do. This is the estimate. When you get to your CD phase, you will already know that's kind of like too late in the game to make changes. It's still not impossible, right? The building is not constructed yet, but it is going to be costly. You'll spend more hours on redesigning and repositioning things in your design. So do that from the very beginning. Do a lot of homework from the very beginning, and that will be easier. And the third objective is to evaluate cost considerations during the design process. And here, what this means is you need to allocate your resources smartly. As an architect, you'll plan everything, you'll schedule your team, and you see how much money is left on this design phase, for example, and if you do not have any money left, you need to request more money for you to finish this before you move to the next phase. So that's kind of like the cost considerations here. You need to understand how much your drafter costs, how much your project manager costs, and so on. And yeah, that was it for our sections. And at the very end, I always like to talk a little bit about the passing score. So this is the higher passing score. It's between 65 and 71%. And this is quite high, although it's still not 100%. You don't have to know everything, and there will be things that you don't know, even after studying for like many, many weeks and months and probably years sometimes. You will still find the areas that you really never read about, and that's totally fine. You will definitely eventually know this. So yes, this is the passing score here between 65 and 71%. And this is the breakdown by the section, by the content areas. And just based on the number of questions per each section, you see how it varies. And that was actually it for our project planning and design division. If you have any questions, if you have any concerns, you can always reach out to me, and you can leave comments and questions and whatever recommendations you have under this video. Like this video, subscribe to my channel, share with your friends, and I truly appreciate that. Also, I will place I will leave the links to my other two videos. I have the video about the paid resources that I used and they helped me a lot. And I have a video about the free resources that supplemented my studies a lot. So, and also I leave the links to the videos to other divisions. It is a playlist, but just in case if you want to just go quick to that division, you will definitely be able to do so. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my other videos. Bye.